The story of Jam begins when Irtefa and I met on Dane's team at Cloudflare. So Dane, it is an honor to have you on the podcast. Dane is the founder of the Innovation and Incubation team at Cloudflare and the SVP of Emerging Technologies. And Dane, you just hit your 11-year mark at Cloudflare, which is just amazing. And it's unbelievable, the accomplishments that what you've built. I can't imagine everything you've seen. We're just excited to jam with you about it.
Yeah, I'm super excited.
I was gonna say, you brought the OG Jam team together, and we're just really excited to talk through how you were able to launch your team and somehow build the beginning versions of these incredibly widely adopted products like Cloudflare Workers, One, the Zero Trust services. Just really excited to get into all of that.
Yeah, super excited to be here with you guys today.
And Dane, you're famous for your ability to ship and get stuff done. And we've never really asked you, well, what's the secret sauce? And so expect some questions there.
Looking forward to it.
And, we want to dive deep into building the innovation and the incubation team and talk to a few of the early products that you all built at Dani and I, we got to witness firsthand as well. And it's actually quite remarkable. And Dani and I reflect on this experience on a regular basis and how it's been one of the dream jobs that we ever had. And it was truly inspiration for us when we started Jam. But also, it challenged us a lot as builders, as you can imagine. But before we talk about that, could you maybe just talk a little bit about the early days of your professional journey and how you ended up at Cloudflare?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've been an entrepreneur since I was very young, always trying to build and start things. And then when I during college, I got to intern at some great companies. After college, moved down to Austin and started working at a company called Message One, and got to work under some great product leaders there that kind of just taught me how to build things that customers want and work with engineers to get them shipped. And then that company got sold to Dell, and then went on to start my own company, and that was sold. And then I wanted to kind of do something on a really big scale and just solve this uh, how fast Cloudflare was growing and how much the internet that it was seeing that it was going through it without maybe people really noticing at that time back in 2012. And I got to meet the team and to see what amazing flywheel that they had started, and kind of a dream for a product manager to have this flywheel that you could just deliver new products and new features and instantly have tens of thousands and now millions of users using almost instantly when you launch anything.
Uh, that is kind of crazy how you ended up on this. And what was it like in those? You said in 2012. What was it like? Like how many people were there? How did you even find out about Cloudflare? Not a lot of people knew about that, right? So how did that go?
I actually had heard about Cloudflare right after they launched the TechCrunch Disrupt a couple of years earlier, and actually had texted one of my co-founders and said, "You guys have to check out this company. This is it was awesome," because we were in the process of building a site that that in the daily deal space and needed performance and security, but we couldn't afford to pay Akamai at the time, and I was like, "This is perfect for us." And so I kind of put that on the back burner. But when I moved up to San Francisco and started talking with companies, a couple of people, the name Cloudflare came up again, and I think they were in a Forbes article, and someone said, "Hey, have you talked to these people?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I need to talk to those people." And so emailed Matthew Michelle and said, we'll have to just come in and chat and figure out his role for me at Cloudflare. I think you guys are building some amazing things. And then I came in, at the time there were less than 30 people. I think I interviewed with 20 people because I would be the first kind of non-engineer product on the product side joining. And so they wanted to, they're very worried about the culture fit and making sure that, people wasn't going to scare away anybody, I guess, on the engineering side. And got to meet the whole team and just fell more in love with what they were doing, and especially with Matthew, Michelle, and Lee, and just thought that there was something special there. So decided after a long 6-week interview process, decided to join the company.
When you said 20 people that really caught my attention. Like knowing you and like working with you for years, like I know you have the stamina to go through and like talk to so many people and just like work really, really hard. But man, that's crazy. Like 20 people from the entire company, that's like 80% of the company. Like how did that happen? Like over a few days? Like was there like a forum that happened? What did that look like?
Oh, I think I came in at first, and I think I chatted with Matthew and Michelle, and then a couple days went by. Then came back in, and I chatted with Lee, who's the technical co-founder, and then started meeting several of the engineers. The engineers probably met them in groups of kind of two or three at a time in different areas of the company. I think, and then over a course of several days, we're all, I think they probably had a lot of internal chats. And we're like, what's it going to change? How's it going to change the culture? Bringing in someone that is, you know, not coding all day, that's going to, be introducing some new concepts on how we package and ship things, uh, um, and I guess at the end of the day, they decided it was a good idea.
Dane, what were early days like? Like early days at Cloudflare, what was the vibe? You have stories that you remember?
Well, I mean, our office on Townsend Street in Soma, it was kind of like a dorm room. I mean, I mean, just big open room with white walls. Our desks were, some folding chairs and uh, tables that were kind of put together with doors, I think. And you know, we just, kind of right next to each other, and and do things kind of very manual. Like we didn't even have a Jira or any tracking system when I got there, and we used a whiteboard where every few weeks we would put up stickies for what everyone was going to get done in the next few weeks. And so as you got those stickies done, you took them down, and you know we would, as we were done, we would ship them into production. It was just very fast moving, and tons of ideas that would just kind of come up from after lunch chats, walking back to the office, and in front of the whiteboards. And it was just some of the smartest engineers I've ever worked with. Were there in those early days.
One of the hallmarks of early Cloudflare is just the like ambition and the scale of what Cloudflare was shipping at such an early stage company. Like, it's, I mean, now as a founder, it's even more inspiring. It's like, how did they do that? Um, how did those things come to be? Like Cloudflare at that early stage built an incredible firewall, like incredible apps platform. Like how did all those things happen?
Well, I mean, I mean, from day one until today, we like to ship early, and they don't necessarily ship as the best, most amazing product or feature. But we ship them, and we get customer feedback, and we go up market. Our WAF, when we first launched it, some report came out and just said how horrible it was, and that was kind of, when any time someone Googled it online, it was there. But that was, in the very early days. But we kept on at it. We iterated on it. Created several versions of it. And Imperva was kind of the gold standard there. And then over time, we kind of overtook them, and became kind of best of breed. And that's kind of what we do for all products. We get them out there. We iterate on them, customer feedback, and know that we will go up into the right in quality and value to the customers over time. Yeah, and one of the secrets is the free customer user basic Cloudflare, the ability to, when you ship something, you actually can get that real time feedback from you know just millions of users instantly that are willing to test things out for us in exchange for using them for free, and then that early feedback loop is just critical uh, to evolving the product.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that we learned and we took away when we started building Jam. I remember, Danny, like when we just started hacking on Jam, it was like me and you, both of us, like writing code and trying to get something out there and trying to get feedback early. And then, like, Danny set up these calls with like 50 people, like product managers, engineers, and designers, and then just get the early iteration of our product out and see like, hey, like, does this resonate with people or not? We know this is not the final product, but that's one of the things that we took away, like working for you, that how important it is to get an early iteration of the product out and really get that feedback, uh, and then continue to iterate and build that like perfect product.
I think another thing is, Cloudflare has always had this sort of like think big mentality. Like Cloudflare does big things for the world. Like, it's gosh, I mean, it's just an amazing company. But even just so early in the company, the things that you all were launching, how how did that culture sort of manifest in the early days? Like, how did the team feel inspired to take such big risks, like have the ambition, like go and do really big things that otherwise like only the big companies were able to do at the time?
Well, I mean, I think that that was kind of, from top down to culturally, knowing that you are always being asked to, is that audacious enough? Is that big enough? Are you thinking big enough? How can we do this better? And how can we do this faster? I don't think there's any meeting that we had where like, early on that Matthew's ever satisfied with the answers. And that culture of just continuing to push everyone, I think, then just kind of got built into the system. And then, I think still to this day, or when I meet with my team, and almost every day, no matter how good the idea is, I'm probably still going to ask like, how can we make this better? Are we thinking big enough? And just the kind of those basic questions. I remember like right when I started, I think we were needed to launch like and setting crazy goals, like and being okay that you'll probably hit them 80% of the time, but you're not going to kill yourself to make them, but you're going to push as hard as you can. I think we said we wanted to launch like 6 new data centers and in 6 weeks, so like one a week. I think at that point we only had a couple data centers. And so like, the idea that we were going to have that many that quickly, I think, at first was scary to the team, but then, you do one and then, you do it the next one and they keep on getting faster and faster and faster until it just becomes part of the culture that, launching data centers, just something that you do. And, I think we're up to 275 of them, at this point, or in 275 plus cities.
It's just an amazing culture to be a part of. Like when you're on the inside, you get this sense of like, we are also excited by the work we are being pushed and encouraged to do. And there's like the sense of like joint pride of like, I can't believe we're all able to do this together. It's so much more than we thought we would be able to do. And it really comes from like, from you, from Matthew, from Michelle, from DGC, just the leadership team, always asking, what's more ambitious? Can we do more? Can we do faster?
You know what this reminds me of, Danny? When you and Dane worked on launching 1.1.1.1, because that was a crazy story, right? Like there was very little time. You all had to do like so much in such a short time and just make it happen. Can you all share a little bit about what that looked like? Any fun stories from that time?
I mean, I think we wanted to launch a resolver for years, and Matthew just said you can't launch a resolver unless you have a memorable IP. Like, through a few different circumstances, and we were able to get 1.1.1 and work out a deal for that with Apnic, and then it was kind of like off to the races. I think we had set the April 1st deadline just kind of arbitrarily, just because we thought it would be, fun to launch something that wasn't an April Fool's joke on April Fool's Day.
And like that was how many days? Like that was like pretty like can you tell me like by
It's
the
like a
when
month.
you set that goal? Yeah, like 30 days out. That's nuts.
Yeah, I remember it being 32 days. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, we had to, figure out how to get the resolver built. We obviously had a great platform. The network was already there. So we had, get the code, had engineers that were incredibly passionate about DNS and about the idea that we were going to make internet faster, faster everywhere. And part of the reason why we were able to do the deal with Apnic to get 1.1.1 is because DNS resolution is historically very slow in Asia. And we said that we would be committed to making sure that there was a fast resolver in Asia. And so the team, really felt that there was a mission behind what we're doing, not just launching another product, another feature. And so, got them rallied behind it. But obviously, engineering was only one part of it. There was obviously the marketing, the PR, legal, all those things that Danny had to go run around and chase people for. and not take no as an answer, or not believe it wasn't possible, and get everyone rally behind that.
Just for context for the listeners, like when 1.1.1.1 launched, it like blew up, like it went viral. People were talking about it. Crazy number of DNS requests coming through. Uh, but there was like, Danny, can you imagine? There was little to no marketing budget, right? There was like a lot of guerrilla marketing stuff that you all had to do to like get people to like learn about 1.1.1.
Oh, the marketing team was brilliant. Oh, they were so awesome. They kind of they sort of ran with it. The like limited budget, great opportunity. We spray painted the IP address around the streets of San Francisco. Um, I think at some point someone floated the idea we could adopt the highway for pretty cheap. I don't think that ever happened, but it was a really like spirited effort. One of the other things I remember from 1.1 to 1, and actually all the projects that we worked with you on, Dane, is, you know, most companies think that if something's really important, you put a lot of people on it. Like you got to staff it up because you want to get it done. And then Dane, you sort of seem to have this sort of opposite belief where actually something's really important and you want to do it well and fast and do it right. You put fewer people on it and give them a greater sense of ownership or responsibility, and then just see how fast they can run. And I remember, 1.1 today handles 35 trillion queries a month, like something outrageous. Um, and and yet the initial team was just a small, lean, senior engineering team that could really sprint at it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. But like to start everything with small little teams that don't have as few dependencies as possible, that can make decisions, are empowered to go fast. I mean, bigger teams usually lead to a lot more meetings, a lot more discussion. When in reality, a small team can have less discussion and just make the decision, and then as long as they're stay close to it, they can course correct, and usually get to that endpoint a lot faster, without all the overhead. Now, obviously, as you scale, you do need bigger teams and more specialization, but when you're getting something started, no matter if you're getting started something in a big company or a small company, a small teams are usually the most kind of powerful and effective there.
Dane, where did that come from? Like, was that something that you throughout your career, like start your own company and then working at other companies, or like was it at Cloudflare? How did you learn that, hey, like you need this sort of like Navy SEALs type of like small special forces team to like get things done early? Where did that come from?
I think probably out of necessity early. Like we didn't have that many people, right? So if I wanted to do something, I needed to get one or two great engineers on board to do it, and convince them that it was possible, and that we were going to get it, get something out there. There just wasn't the option to go hire 20 people to do any of these things. So a lot of it was just out of necessity, but I think it was kind of the right formula for moving fast and being able to iterate.
This flows well into my next question. Working for you, both me and Danny, you have like a very famous style of leadership, and you have this incredible ability of hiring amazing people and finding, the diamond in the rough. And what I also noticed was, like you mentioned earlier, talking about your professional experience, how you were at Message One. A lot of people that you work closely at Message One actually work at Cloudflare now, so they followed you there. Like, how do you do this? What's the secret? Like, how do you find those people? How do you hire them? And how do you keep taking them on these like journeys with you?
Well, I mean, I think I look for people, with a high level of ownership, that they know how to do things from end to end, and take pride in that work. People that are curious, that people that are always wanting to learn more, I think people that have a lot of empathy uh, uh, for their teammates, for their customer, and you kind of put that all together, and less about what the person's done in the past, but more do they kind of have those qualities, and and then it's about continuing to nurture those relationships, because it's these are your people, not just like names on a sheet. And so, yeah, I mean, you spend a lot of time with people you work with, and it's important to know about them, what drives them, what's going on with them, both personally and professionally, and make sure that you're continuing to um, uh, be a part of the bigger journey with them.
One of the reasons why people hire like experienced people is because they can ask about all these times where they had to take ownership and have empathy for the customers. But Dane, something that you do is you hire people who have no experience and then you push them to do things they never thought were possible. So when you hired me, I was straight out of college. I'd had internships, but never like a full-time job in tech. Irtefa was a full-time engineer when you hired him to the product team. It was his first product role. Um, how how do you how do you do it? How do you suss out
Well,
sort of these qualities
I,
when yeah.
I mean, Danny, I mean, you had done quite a bit. I mean, you had your hacker space, you had your website, you cold emailed us, you did the research so that you weren't just sending out how I would like to work here emails. You were actually talking about why you wanted to work there and why what we were doing was important. I mean, that attention to detail, that kind of that ownership, those qualities are there before you have necessarily work experience. I think Artifa, your desire to also just wanting to keep on learning and figuring out how to be better, and probably a little chip on your shoulder that you wanted to prove some people wrong. I knew that that would lead to the drive needed to be able to take things to completion.
Daddy, do you know about this? Like, it's kind of crazy how, like, so I used to be an engineer, right? Like, and I people would reach out over LinkedIn, like about roles and stuff. Never respond to them. Don't care. But for some reason that day, like, I received this email from Dane, and I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna grab coffee with this person. I had no idea who Dane was, but I knew what Cloudflare was because I was at a tech talk hosted by Y Combinator a few years ago, and I saw Matthew and Michelle talk, and I was like, "Oh, this is a pretty interesting company." And I told Dane was hiring for engineers, and I was like, I'm not looking for an engineering role. I'm looking for a product role, but I'm happy to chat with you. Maybe I have some friends because I didn't know who Dane was. So I was like, I'm just gonna help this person hire a few engineers, maybe a few of my friends. So we grabbed coffee and like we chat, we hit it off. And Dane, I don't know if you remember, like, I don't remember exactly what questions you asked me. I think you asked, like, what am I doing, what I'm working on, what I'm interested in. And we talked about Cloudflare a little bit. And then back then, I was still going through my immigration stuff. So I didn't have my H-1B visa. So I told him, I'll be ready. This was sometime in March. And I said, like, I'll be ready in sometime in October. And then I forget about Cloudflare. Like a few months go by. And the first week of October, I get an email from Damon. Hey, are you still interested in this? I was like, what? How does this person? Yes, calendars do exist, schedule send does exist, but like that sort of like rigor when it comes to like hiring people and keeping track, like that's incredible. Like what was going on your side, Dane? Like, can you tell me a little bit about like where the discipline, the process comes from?
Uh, well, I mean, I think knowing that in order to do anything, you need a team. And so I've always been on the lookout for people that I think are builders who can ship stuff, who can land stuff with customers, and so uh, I think I probably filed away that conversation, and and then as we kept on growing, there was that need, and said, hey, there's this guy that I met that we should he can help us, we can help him, and should reach back out.
So the team that you hired Irtefa onto was a brand new team that you started at Cloudflare. It's now called the Emerging Technologies team. It was formerly called Product Strategy. And it was this sort of team that you invented that could go and take big risks and chase new greenfield opportunities, but without betting the company. And we worked on the team, but we actually don't know the history of the team. How did that come to be? How did you come up with the idea? Was it a hard sell to the rest of the leadership team?
It was actually, Matthew's idea several years earlier. I think at HBS he met Clay Christensen, fame of Innovator's Dilemma, and Matthew was always very worried about us being disrupted, either from up above or below, and wanted to make sure that we were continuing to not kind of mortgage our future, and continuing to innovate and uh, uh, and just not slow down. And so he always kind of believed that there needed to be kind of two separate product and engineering orgs. One that was focused on going up market and kind of what we like to talk about as accelerating innovation, and then another team that was kind of focused more on disruptive innovation. A team that could take bigger bets, wouldn't be afraid to fail, could even be willing to disrupt ourselves, and not have that kind of make those kind of false trade offs there, for short term gains. And so, initially we called it product strategy. I'm not really sure why, but and tried to do it in San Francisco initially there, and what we kind of always said would happen. Well, what we were afraid of happening and kind of did happen was we kept on engineers that had kept on getting pulled back onto customer deliverables, customer commitments, and we weren't making much progress. At the same time, wanted to move back to Austin, and said, okay, well, maybe we should try this as a completely separate or engineering organization, even in separate, have the engineers actually sitting somewhere separately so that they won't get distracted. And so initially, it's come to Austin and build out a small engineering team and a small product team to go kind of take these new bets. And kind of going back to hiring people. And one of the reasons why I like hiring people like you guys is with sort of less real world work experience is because you don't have preconceived notions of what's not possible. So if we ask for, like, go build something and it sounds crazy, you're going to say, oh well, my past history says that's not possible, and not even give an idea a chance. So you guys kind of assumed anything that we said was possible, and just ran full force at trying to make it happen.
Just thinking about that gets me so pumped up. The good old days. One of the So my background was in engineering, right? But I come to Cloudflare and I tell everyone and my friends, I was like, I used to do coding full time, but like after I joined as a product manager at Cloudflare and worked there with these incredibly smart people and very technical products, I think I'm a better engineer now. I know more about technical stuff that I didn't know as an engineer. And one of the interesting things that I saw both you and Dani do is like come up with like products and ideas to work on that like for someone who just joined the team, and for context, like Dani was there before I was at Cloudflare, where for someone like me, I was like, like, why even work on this thing? I'll give an example where when we, like now it's like Cloudflare Zero Trust Services, but in the very early days, it was just Argo Tunnel. It was just Cloudflare Access. And like, did you all know, like back then, how all of these like pieces will come together? Like for me, like at that moment, like I was like, oh, like why are they working on this stuff?
Dane has always known.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had some theses. Like, I mean, we knew that early on. Everything is about protecting the infrastructure and any performance security sitting in front of your websites, your APIs, and things like that. And we always kind of said, well, if our core assets are network and that's just a vertical application on it, why can't we turn it around and protect things from the other direction? Protect the users and devices from the rest of the internet. And access was the first piece there, but we kind of always do that. In order to have a full solution, we needed to have the other pieces. The DNS gateway, the secure web gateway. I don't think we knew we needed remote browser isolation back then, but I think we knew there was an overall kind of turning the network around and protecting things in the other direction. And then with Workers, it was the platform where we were struggling to build new things back then, and because we had kind of a monolith at the edge, and anytime you wanted to make a change, you're worried about breaking customers, and you had to get these other teams to review things. uh, and we needed a better framework, a better way of uh, being able to deploy things. So Workers was kind of originally built for ourselves, knowing that but knowing that if we could make it easier for our own engineers to build applications, we could make it easier for other companies to build on us as well. And so, knowing that our first customer was Cloudflare, let us build and get those things out early. But we also knew that building a developer platform is an 8 to 12 year journey, and so which involves first getting all the little pieces out, like getting compute out first, and then getting storage and uh, databases, and knowing each of those things were part of that bigger puzzle.
I love the Workers story because I do remember in those days, every every application on the internet is so different. So things do require custom configuration. And before Cloudflare Workers, it just took a lot of people and a lot of work to do custom configuration. And Cloudflare Workers was this huge unlock, making Cloudflare so extensible for whatever application you are running behind it. And I love that it's like built for Cloudflare, deployed for everyone, and then over time built for everyone. Another product that sort of followed that journey, and the reason why I love it so much is because it does, is Cloudflare Access, which if anyone listening is still using a VPN, there's a better way. You don't need to fuss with your VPN anymore. Cloudflare, when it started working on Access, was using a VPN. It was everyone's favorite workplace tool. And some engineers got fed up with the VPN, and they built a security layer at Cloudflare's edge that would protect all the traffic the way a VPN would, but with a much easier, faster, seamless user experience, which became Cloudflare Access. Again, like built for Cloudflare, deployed for everyone, and now has a huge impact on all these companies worldwide. Um, Dean, where do you think that like build for ourselves first and unleash it to the world comes from? Like, why is that? Why does Cloudflare do that, but very few other companies do?
Um, well, I mean, I one is we have this network and we have this platform where you can build things on top of it, uh, and uh, and then also, we've always thought that we were building a big, great company, and so a lot of the problems internally that we see, we assume that if we're seeing them, other customers are seeing them as well, and so solve the problem for us, and then go figure out how to scale that and solve that for other customers.
And dog fooding has been so important always at Cloudflare. Like, um, there was maybe the data center is like, there's like a dog fooding data center that all Cloudflare employee traffic's going through before anything gets pushed to customers. Dog fooding now in the industry is like, very widely known term, but I remember it being very new back then. And even the leadership team had to like present to the company what is dog fooding and how we're going to be adopting it, or like how we are leveraging it, and how we need everyone on board to do that. Um, where did that kind of philosophy come from, and how is it involved in the company to today?
But I mean, not many people had built a distributed system like we had using this Anycast network model, and it just inherently, it was very hard to build staging, and even if we could build a staging for every single feature, there's just so many edge cases with just how the internet works. And so the best way to kind of find those edge cases was to just get them in the hands of people. And initially that was certain parts of the world with our different customer bases. And then as the company internally got big enough, we were like, oh, let's just have our own employees test it as the gate before even bringing it to our canary colos, which are sprinkled out throughout the network.
One of the things that you brought to Cloudflare that we took then to Jam, because we loved the process so much, is this sort of four-step process of how to ship a product in a really fast but high quality way. And the first step is just to build this sort of proof of concept so everyone can see and like try and get inspired and think about what could be. And then that prototype actually gets discarded. It's like that initial effort, you put it aside to actually build the real thing. And then the next step is to build something internally. And only once it's good enough that we internally can use it, then it can go to beta and then general access. How did you come up with that framework? Yeah, where is that from?
So I think I realized early on that a lot of people got kind of hung up on trying to solve everything, and a lot of the kind of details and decisions that and, wanting to make those all up front when honestly you really didn't know, or you didn't have the information to actually make those decisions until you could actually see something end to end working and actually experience it for yourself. So kind of just getting everyone okay with getting all the pieces working end to end, as opposed to kind of sitting in an ivory tower and trying to build one component uh, out at a time, and then kind of hope it all goes together, and then maybe realizing it all the way at the end that you had made this horrible mistake. And so the ability to course correct early, uh, uh, um, you know, and actually get to use your products. I think just shortens the feedback loop for everyone.
Yeah. Um, as Dani was talking through some of the products that she got to work on with you, it just reminded me how, products like Cloudflare Access, the problem that it's solving, or the DNS Resolver 1.1.1.1, and even Cloudflare Workers, like products, not exactly, but the problem, other products were solving similar problems. But what Cloudflare did, what you did, was bring a very unique perspective and added a unique value. You made it faster, better, easier to use, and more accessible. But throughout these processes, like, uh, because you're taking a very unique approach, like, what are some challenges that you all ran into that you didn't expect? Like, any fun stories from there?
Oh yeah, I mean, well, we also had some we had some real network purists on the team, and believed that we always had to ship everything with IPv6 day one, and combining that with trying to use anycast for everything, uh, you just find out how many parts of the internet are broken. And so while things might work, another reason to get things working end to end very early on is because the you know the internet is a crazy scary place that you can't really imagine how people are going to use and try to bend and your product to their needs. And so you need that kind of that base. But um you know I mean, what are some you know good IPv6 stories, Danny?
What's so cool about working at Cloudflare is that just with Cloudflare's scale and reach, when when you when you push hard and make a big effort internally in the company, you get to impact a lot of people externally, and it's so validating. And one of those big moments was when we flipped on the switch to enable IPv6 for every single web application or web instance behind Cloudflare, all in one go. And suddenly the size of the IPv6 web just grew. And that community of people who have been working on that protocol for decades, I mean, they all know each other. They're all super well connected. They meet every few months in person, and I remember the excitement in that community, seeing this dream that they'd had for so long, they've been pushing forward, suddenly in one day kind of like almost happened. And that was just very rewarding and really just a cool moment in like internet history to get to be a little part of.
Yeah, and going back to the can't predict everything, and so similar to the IPv6 and turning that on and getting the whole world to use that, SSL everywhere, where we wanted to make SSL, democratize it and make it free so that everyone could have TLS security on their website. We had millions of sites by this time, and what we built our infrastructure so we knew that we could host millions so that we could host millions of certs on our infrastructure. We got the cost down to serve to very low. But what we didn't kind of completely think through was, after we announced it, we needed to be able to issue through our CA providers millions of certs, almost instantly, because everybody wanted the feature. It wasn't like flipping a switch; wanted it pretty quickly. And these CA infrastructures were just built for that. They're built for like doing a cert every few minutes, and we needed to push them to do millions of them. And I think first we thought, okay, maybe take a day, and I think it ended up taking a few weeks of like a lot of hand holding for 24 hours a day, making sure that the system was slowly feeding in each new site one at a time and getting things deployed. So like, we planned it out very well and had a lot of things checked off, but we kind of missed the fact that no one had ever issued millions of certs in such a short time period.
And then it like doubled the size of the encrypted web. I mean, just the impact, like tons of effort internally, but then the ripple effect, it changes the course of the internet.
Yeah. And then you break the internet in interesting ways. So a few years later, there was Heartbleed, which was a TLS vulnerability where we had to reissue all those certs for everyone, or everyone in the world pretty much had to reissue all their certs. And then there's this thing called CRLs, which certificate revocation list that browsers download to see which certs are valid or not valid. And usually there was, maybe a couple hundred certs on those lists. Well, when we go and expire, millions of domains certs all at once, those lists become, 10, 15, 20 megs. So then you start having everyone's browsers and OSs downloading these huge certs and huge CRLs that these CA infrastructures also weren't designed to handle or never expected to have a CRL list that was more than a few hundred, ballooned to millions. So, we've definitely stretched and stressed the internet infrastructure in really interesting ways over the years.
That's incredible. I want to go back to Dane. You ship more product faster than anyone we know. And so I want to go back to how you do that. And so I remember one of the things that you invented at Cloudflare was this sort of this internal dashboard called ship log that suddenly gave visibility to what was shipping in the company and then encouraged people to ship faster. How did that come to be? Where did that end up going? And what are some other systems and things that you've done internally to help the team, even as the team is growing, have the velocity of a startup?
Yeah. I mean, the idea of the ship order in our RM roadmap board was that, while everyone was working on their individual tickets and their individual kind of components, I wanted to make sure everyone knew how it all fit together, especially as we were growing, and also be able to for people to kind of visualize that there was a date that we were all aiming for, and they were part of these bigger launches, and we created these things called innovation weeks, which started as I think a birthday. Our birthday day announcements for Cloudflare became an entire birthday week of announcements that releasing things that were good for the internet, but then became I think now we do about 7 of these innovation weeks a year. We just finished up one called Developer Week, where everyone the company rallied behind. There's a date we have to hit that we want to tell this big grand story, and they need to do their part in helping kind of make that happen. And dates aren't about like making people like work 24 hours a day, nights and weekends. But they are a good function to align people and get people to call out when things are not possible or where they are possible, or and give people something to aim for.
We've actually brought that. We loved to focus on setting a date to sort of encourage ruthless prioritization and like good conversation and openness about what's possible and what's not and how we should change course. And it's actually something we've brought in from Cloudflare to Jam, where when we're working on a project, we set a date quite early on. We put it in Google Calendar because, as a small startup, not quite yet big enough for a shipboard. And then that creates conversation throughout the product process about like, okay, should we deprioritize this? Do we have time now? Should we add this thing? And that's totally something we learned from you.
Dane, like you're one of the people in the world who has only one speed. And it's like, watching the movie, everything everywhere all at once. I remember when we just launched a 1.1.1.1 mobile app. It was a pretty small team. So I was the product manager on that. And then Dane was answering support tickets. Like you were a VP back then, and there were like 10, 20,000 support tickets coming in. You're basically going through each one of them and responding to it. Like you don't have to, but you're doing it. But now, like you're an SVP, like how do you go from that like view to like a high level view of like prioritizing strategy and executing at like an SVP level?
So I think it's important that people actually can actually span from thinking about things high level, yearly planning, budgets, uh, big company goals, but then actually go, and dive in with the team and go tactical and actually, experience uh, how things actually work at your own company to, still be able to ship them and deliver things. So, even today, there are projects where I will go in and start testing them and find bugs and report them. I mean, I think Matthew still does that to this day too. Like, we'll test things and report early bugs, just to make sure that we actually understand what we're building and can empathize with both the customers as well as with the developers and engineers and support people at the company.
That's amazing.
Amazing.
Dane, before we wrap, your team has shipped just unbelievable things. What should people listening go and try out and use that you and your team have worked on and built?
Yeah. So, last week we had our developer week, one of our innovation weeks, and we just shipped a ton of things that hopefully make the platform more accessible to developers, make it easier for them to build full stack applications. Launched a new version of our D1 database, so you can actually run SQLite on the edge, and we are trying to converge our pages and our workers product together to make that a better developer experience. So just go and try and deploy something to Cloudflare. A lot of people are building AI applications and using some of our getting started packages, templates, and can get up and going in a few minutes.
I mean, we are the biggest fans of Cloudflare, and a lot of Jam is built on Cloudflare. We use Cloudflare products like, of course, Cloudflare Workers, which lets us have like logic running at the edge. We have users in 160 countries, and we're able to give a really fast experience for them because of that. We use Cloudflare Stream to deliver video. Like, a lot of bug capture is done through video, and then people all over the world can stream it so seamlessly with like adaptive bit rate. Because of Cloudflare, we didn't have to do any video engineering on ours. And so anyway, thank you for all the amazing product stuff that you built.
Well, a lot of those products you worked on yourself, so you helped
In the early days.
ship them. So so that you could build a great company on top of it.
Dana, one of the like really fun things that we get to experience now, like being on the other side, like not only just being the customers of Cloudflare using the product, but also when we get on calls with our customers and when there's like that mutual fit, like most of the people in the world are using Cloudflare and you get on a call, they're like, oh, you also worked on Cloudflare Workers? That is so cool. And like they love Jam even more. So that's like one of the fun things that happens when we sometimes get on customer calls.
Awesome. Dane, thank you so much for coming on. Um, it was it was just awesome to get to learn from you and reflect with you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to see what you guys continue to build and get to use your product more and more as well too.
Thanks, Dane.
Yeah. Thanks for jamming with us.